Well, g'day fishos. It's a Friday, it's fishing report time. Weather looks this weekend, looks glamour. Looking at my forecasters, they're telling me that the weather looks pretty good this weekend. It's going to be a autumn weekend by the looks of it with those light southeast winds. So should be pretty good for fishing, I think, all round. They're light and variable, so looks pretty good at the moment. Maybe a couple of showers, onshore showers, but it's going to be that typical autumn weather. Well, usually early March weather, but it's late March. So I reckon we're sort of a month behind at the moment in the weather anyway. But what's happening on the fishing front? Well, the estuary is just going from strength to strength. It is fishing really well. Those pelagics or smaller pelagics are still in the bay, the Taylor, the Bonito, the Watson's Leaping Bonito have joined the crew now, and also those frigates and smaller Mac tuna. So feeding on small bait, like I said, those 5 to 11 gram armory and chavies doing the job. When we've got stock of them, I tell you, they're flying out the door. If you're a fly fisherman like me, well then surf candies, get the fly rod out. I reckon a 6 to 8 weight's perfect on those little tuna, so definitely worth a shot inside the bay. They're moving in with the tide, moving from virtually, say, the breakwater Nelson Bay all the way through into Salamander. So the Salamander Wharf's seen a little bit of action there as well, behind Bannister's Hotel. So a little bit of action in behind there. Did hear of 1 or 2 longtails seen, so can't confirm or deny the reports of longtails in the bay yet, but I still think it's a little bit early. They are catching a few off the rocks, but I wouldn't say there's plenty. But they're starting to get around. It's just that we've got a pool of cold water off Port Stephens at the moment, which won't escape, unfortunately, due to the current pushing so hard out wide. It's not allowing that water to push in, and we've got nor'easters there today, but hopefully this light sou'easters, it might change all that. Fingers crossed. We just need a shift in the current. But the bay fishing well, like I said, those pelagics inside the bay. Some good flatties still about, some crackers. Been sent some photos this week by Jack, by Pete, all on plastics and hard body lures, some absolute beauties. 80s and 90 centimetre flatties. I tell you what, Port Stephens is getting renowned as a big flatty capital. It's unreal to see. So some good lizards around. Maybe it's just the new techniques we're using these days, bigger plastics, bigger hard bodies, that are sort of gaining the attraction of those fish, that's for sure. So some good flatties around, I know, through Corlette up towards Soldiers Point, all through there. Down along Nelson Bay Beach, there's some beauties down there, especially first light at the moment. And then back down along Little Beach and then down into the eastern end of Shoal Bay. If you're fishing the other side of the bay, we can't beat Barnes's Rock through to the shortcut there, fishing really well, and into the shortcut itself. So some good flatties about, both shore-based and out of the boat if you wish. But I know the shore-based guys are doing pretty well because those fish are holding up in the shallows at the moment. So doing pretty well on the flatties inside the bay. Kingies down the breakwall, some good kings down the breakwall seen and caught. I know young KO got an 80 centimetre model there. Some good tailor down on the breakwall as well. So some nice tailor down off the breakwall at the moment. Now, down in Shoal Bay, a few gurries starting to gather. Remember I spoke about those last week. They're starting to get inside the bay there. Not many, but they're starting to happen already. And a few squid turning up there too, which is good to see. So they've been a little bit absent the last couple of years, but there's been a few squid through the moorings at Shoal Bay at the moment. So bay fishing well, still fish for whiting. Plenty of whiting around if you want to get some live yabbies and try any of the beaches at the moment or up in the flats there. So plenty of good whiting still about inside the bay. That's the bay in a nutshell at the moment. You'd also try for a mulloway. Now off the bigger tides now. Those smaller tides, those neat tides will be better for fishing for mulloway inside the bay, that's for sure. It's a good time of year. We'll get that mullet run soon, and that's when the big ones start to play. So should start to happen. Obviously up on the north coast with those floodwaters, we've had some good mulloway up there. So it won't be too long before we see that mullet run and we get those bigger fish inside Port Stephens. So, beaches and rocks. So like I said before, I heard of a couple of longtails caught, not many, and that's because the water's just a little bit off at the moment, but it will happen. A couple of cobia as well, so some cobia caught land-based this week, which you've got to think this time of year it is starting to happen for that type of pelagic action as well. If you want to spin off the rocks, there's plenty of bonito, tailor, and the odd kingy and things off the rocks. Any of those points, Fingal, down to 1 mile, down to Boat Harbour, those points seem to be the ideal place to have a spin off the rocks at this time of year. Haven't heard too much else off the rocks at the moment, only because the swell's been down. It's pretty flat this week. Snapper fishing's been a little bit hit and miss, but with a little bit of southeast weather, a bit of overcast weather, we might find a few snapper off the rocks. On the beaches, though, the beaches are fishing really well. Little pockets of redweed you just got to avoid, especially in those northern corners of the beach. But the spit looked good yesterday. Looked like there were some nice gutters up towards the spit, so it'd be worth fishing up Fingal and also down off Samurai as well. You'll get out of the northerlies there and down Berrubi. So beach is still fishing well for whiting. Even though the water's only sort of about 20 degrees, it still is pretty good on the beaches at the moment. Some good tailor after dark as well. If you're keen on fishing for tailor, there are some really, really nice tailor after dark. It's just the tides are a little bit out at the moment. We've got that lower tide in the afternoon and early morning at the moment. So when that switches around in about a week's time, I think it'd be worth fishing after dark for those bigger tailor. You will catch them on the low tide if you find a deep enough gutter, if you're keen to give that a crack. Now, on the offshore scene, cobia caught last week. Some good cobia around. I know Thomas caught an absolute beauty. I don't think he was that far out. So if cobes are starting to get around the reefs, I know Gary caught one on a soft plastic. So some cobes around at the moment. Even though that water, like I said, it's not the best, they are getting around at the moment. I think it'll only improve from here. Some good reds around too. Now we're off the back of the full moon. Definitely worth fishing for snapper. I spoke to Scotty off Freedom there. He was marlin fishing, had a quick go, marked a bunch of fish on the inshore, and he said there was some terrific snapper on the inshore in about 30 to 40 metres and some good trag around as well. So definitely worth a bottom fish. If you're marlin fishing, it's a little bit slow, which it has been this week, unfortunately. That water cooling off on the inshore, it's been a little bit slow for that, unfortunately. So maybe a little bit better water up towards Seal Rocks at the moment, but it could be a little bit over for the inshore. Who knows? I have caught them all the way through into mid-April. If we get a push of current in, I have caught them through to mid-April and good numbers. I remember I had an 11-day in the middle of April, so, and that was just out the front of Little Island. So still a little bit of time for the inshore, but we'll see how we go. Some good kings around too, some absolute cracking kings. There has been garies, especially up around Broughton Island, so some good kingies chasing the garies around. When we get that mullet run, they'll even get better. So big kings love mullet, they love garies, so definitely worth a shot there. Be also worth a shot around the headlands, long tails around, so if you want to spin a live bait some of the more prominent headlands, or up around Broughton, you might find a long tail up that way at the moment. Further down around the islands again, look, trolling around the islands, plenty of bonito, small rat kings around Little Island, so if you want to go for a troll, definitely worth a shot there. Be worth throwing a bigger live bait out, especially around the front of Fingal. It's a good spot that gets that sort of northerly current when it switches in there, and you do get some good kings down there. Down towards Little Rocky, there's plenty of tailor down there. A few reds down there, but plenty of tailor in the washes down there, and likewise down at Boat Harbour. So that's the offshore in a nutshell. Now the fad, bit of current out there. It's been pushing down about 3 knots, but the dolphin fish is still there. I heard it was a little bit bedlam last weekend, a little bit of, I guess, wrong way traffic going past the fad. And with the current the way it is going to be a little bit harder to fish. So the fish won't necessarily hang right on the fad. They'll actually be around, and I've caught really good ones half a mile to a mile off the fad as well. So it's a matter of just working around and avoiding the boats, and you'll find those bigger fish will be hanging off the fads at the moment, especially obviously there's 2 now, a north and a south fad. Just try and work in between them. I reckon you'll find those bigger fish. You might find the odd stripe marlin or black marlin. I know there was a couple of really good stripes caught around the fad last weekend. So they're trying to get out of that current there. That current's still pushing down the edge of the shelf. So it might be worth having a little bit of a skip bait, a live bait in between the fads. Not only you'll get those dolphin fish, but you might get a surprise of a stripe marlin or a black marlin in there at the moment. Now, speaking of the shelf, looking at the current, still pushing down a bit on the edge of the shelf. Incredible this time of year, 3 knots of current. Blue marlin fishing, no. Calypso boys, I think they went 3 from 6 last Saturday on blue marlin. So good to hear. A couple of better fish there too, 400 pounders. So if you're keen on your blue marlin fishing, now is the time, especially that current moving through. Be worth having a blue marlin fish. So hopefully soon that current switches and we see it push in towards the west there, and that's when the striped marlin will really heat up on the edge of the shelf of Port Stephens. It will happen because it does, especially in April. Anyway, weather looks good this weekend. My suggestion, go fishing. I'll be in the shop.